My name is Supritam Sen, and I work at Fidelity Investments as a Director of Product Management. Currently, I work at a business unit called Fidelity Center for Applied Technology, or FCAT, whose mission is to look at technology that Fidelity and its customers will be using in the next 5 years. My role is focused on driving new products from incubation to scale with a blend of design, engineering, and data science. In my past life, I was a software engineer who was very passionate about data and how data can tell stories. So I got my MBA and then I moved into product management. Now a bit about FCAT. FCAT, or Fidelity Center for Applied Technology, is a specialized group within Fidelity, which is also the innovation engine. FCAT focuses on trends that matter to Fidelity and its customers in the space of AI, blockchain, virtual reality, and cognitive computing. When we incubate new products, we use a scan, try, scale model, as you can see at the bottom of the screen. We scan and assess for opportunities, try new products and concepts using MVP approach, or the minimal viable product approach, and then scale them for wider adoption using various strategies. Now at the AI Incubator, which is where I work, most of these strategies blend design thinking and data science. Let's now take an actual use case to understand some of the items above. I will discuss how we created a tool for internal Fidelity associates and how we iterated to scale the product. But before we start, let's take a look at who the customers are, right? So my use case falls on the human augmentation example that I spoke about, which helps humans in their decision-making. For example, let's take a sales associate, also known as account executives at Fidelity. They sell our products. The most well-known that you all must be familiar with are retirement financial solutions like a 401k, or health benefits like an HSA or an FSA to businesses. Obviously, like most account executives, they are incentivized on how many clients they bring in and how many assets they get into the firm. Now let's understand the problem that the team was solving. Like most account executive, there are a lot of potential customers or leads. And every account executive has their own set of factors to weigh and consider when prioritizing leads. Now, it could be the company size or participants or assets or already known knowledge of the industry, such as the company and what sector they are in. In the orange text below, you can see that the problem that my team was assigned is how can you support data-driven, unbiased approach to sales lead prioritization. So here's how we approach the problem. One, we look to understand the sales process within the firm with design thinking. We found that there were two different parts to prioritization: leads and proposal prioritization. Of course, a lead becomes a proposal when it's qualified. That is, we've determined if the lead is worth the effort for continuous follow-up. So we got granular information on each lead cycle, such as the percentage of completion, as well as you can see on this slide. Then we decided to look at the history of past deals to create models for each stage of the sales journey. Then we decided to add ambient market signals and advisors to the lead, as we heard these real account executives do. Finally, we decided to factor in the decision maker's affinity and included pricing in the mix as well. Now, that's a lot of data that was included in our training models, and we got it. Now, since we used a classifier, we improved our models by looking at some well-known metrics, such as accuracy, recalls, and precisions, which I'm not going to get into today. Finally, we launched the product. Here is a look at our first prototype. We designed an A/B test that deployed to a randomized test group while the control group did not get access to the tool. Let's see what the UI tells us. By looking at the second and third columns here, you can see that the various prospects were listed in the order of their winnability, which is by the win rank column. So if the algorithm predicted that you had a high chance of winning the deal, it would put that on the top of the list. And similarly, the bottom would be the low probability of winning. The other columns are not that important for our discussion. So what was the outcome? Let's take a look at that. After a few months, we saw very low utilization and engagement from users. Just a handful of users had used our product. We like to say that we failed really fast, and that's what we did. Since it was a pilot and a small group, and as a product manager, I had the job of calling users and finding out what they thought about our product. The next slide contains some of the learnings that shaped our key future iterations. One, we learned that there was low trust in the AI rankings. Some of the users questioned how the rankings were created and what data sources we used. Two, just a list of leads that you saw in a few pages back provided very little value for those users. For example, if the account executives called everyone from that list, they'd have to remember who they had called and what stage they were in. Third, the tools were not in the ecosystem. The account executives were using a very popular CRM tool to manage their call list and notes. And finally, four, not everyone in the team, especially some of the managers, aligned with the solutions that we had proposed. Now, we interviewed a few dozens of users and had on-site interviews with their managers. Luckily, after a lot of these interviews and sessions, we pivoted, and here is what the solution looks like today. One, we learned that most users were always working through their emails and clients, which is Outlook. So we created this solution in Outlook to have easy access to the tool and have a bidirectional data communications with their CRM. Two, we provided AI rankings that provided talking points and messages to salespeople. That in turn helped them highlight the strengths and weaknesses of a deal. Three, we shared alternate data sources like advisor insights, which they never had before. They started understanding the different data sources that we were pulling this information from. Four, we optimized their workflow within the tool that helped them focus on selling. For example, we created tasks for them, which whenever they had a new lead. So now, instead of manually creating those tasks, this tool would create it for them. And finally, we created, finally, we created a feature called GPS, or Guided Path to Success, that helped identify the next best task for increasing their sales efficiency. Now, here is what the tool looks like today, and I'm going to show that to you, right? We launched this tool, and it's got very good adoption today amongst the users. 6 months after we launched, we had some really great progress. But before I move into that, let me just quickly show you what the tool contains today. So like I said, on the left side, this was a tool that was created within Outlook, and it created and prioritized their leads using the AI algorithm on the left. Now that became a much smaller feature, right? Earlier, that feature was one of the biggest features in the app. Two, we started including advisor insights such as win-loss records. They could now look at the advisor's phone number or email, and just within a click of a button, send them that information. Three, we started including AI rankings or the explanations of those rankings, and we started calling them AI influencers, which is how is the deal winnability being influenced by data, and the AI was giving you that information. Four, we minimized clicks for task management and gave them the next best task guidance, which really helped us to capture more and more data in the future to make this product better. Now, like I said, we launched this tool and it got very good adoption amongst its users. 6 months after we launched the tool, we found out that our win rate had gone up by 8%, and the velocity of the deals had also increased. That means these account executives were closing and closing deals much faster, right? So once you have adoption, it becomes much more easier to do experiments. Now, here is a result of an experiment that we very recently ran, where we hit the deals. Sorry again, where we hit the deals that had a low probability of winning. Now, the test group, which is shown in orange here, are those users who had their low probability leads hidden. They saved a lot of time when compared to the control group, which is given in blue. Now, since this tool is being used in all sorts of other experimentation, such driving experiments like these are becoming much more easier. And as you can see, the next steps that we are planning to do is we are trying to find out where time was being saved and what sort of work-life balance trends that we can look into and correlate with the product to improve the product going forward. So again, it goes back to the saying that, okay, if you have more data, you have adoption, you're able to run more experiments and make it better and better. Now, in the next few slides, I'm going to summarize some of the learnings. Now, if there is anything that you can take away from this talk, here it is. One, the human value always comes first. Some questions that helped us to find out what the human needs were, a trifecta of 3 values, right? Functional value, which is, are they able to do their jobs using the product? Does it solve the problem? And it lets you map the outcome. 2, do they feel better after using your product? And 3, the cognitive value, which is understanding the needs and why the product is solving your problem in a given way. So you have to always start with what problem and what value you are providing to the user. Second, one of the other lessons that we learned is given on this slide. You have to think of trust that you want to build between the users and your system. So for example, when you give an AI system, when you give a product that has AI to sales associate who've been using the product we've been using their methodology for 20 years, you're not going to gain trust immediately. So you have to think about how you're going to gain that trust. So on this slide, you can see some of the ways in which you can gain that trust. One, by providing AI model explanations, you're able to gain that trust, like we saw at the in the tool that I just showed you. So some of the questions that you can ask yourself is, how can users use these explanations? How can we build more confidence from these explanations? Then when it comes to data, understanding the source of data, ask yourself these questions. Do users trust the data source that you're giving them? Do they understand the source of the data? Do they know what kind of actions they need to take from the data, so that they understand clearly the actions that they need to take? And finally, when it comes to stakeholders, it's always important to understand, are your stakeholders brought in? Because if your stakeholders are brought in, they can drive some of that utilization. And in order to do that, always try and ask yourself, is there enough alignment with the broader goal of the organization and what the stakeholders want?